So it's been 12 years, right? It's 12 years since I've returned to Cambridge. And before I start this talk, I really want to say thank you to my advisor, Hiroshi Ishii. Yeah. So I was Media Lab, Tangible Media Group, RA, under Hiroshi Ishii. And all the achievements could not have happened without Hiroshi's training, so I really appreciate that. And I always wanted to return one day and show my son's photo and all of that to Hiroshi, and I did that today. So I'm very happy. So the title of this talk is AI Meets XR, and I want to give credit to Jay Kim. He's one of the EVPs at Samsung Electronics. He's the one who came up with this quote. And before I delve into all the details, I'll do a quick introduction of myself again briefly and share my journey of working in the XR field. So if you go to the next slide. Oh, sorry, I got the button. So right now I'm a corporate VP and head of XR UX at Samsung Electronics. And as I've mentioned, I studied at MIT Media Lab and Art Center College of Design. So at a certain point of my career, I was teaching at Carnegie Mellon University School of Design. Thanks to Hiroshi's recommendation letter, I was able to get the job. And there I introduced the notion of hybrid environments, working closely with Peter Scupelli, Professor Peter Scupelli. We were the founding faculty members of the environments track, and I was the interaction topic chair at the graduate program. And as I've mentioned, my journey of working in this field started at MIT Media Lab. Shunichi Kasahara, Valentin Hyun, and I worked on Second Surface under Hiroshi, and Shitish Marwa and I worked on Scaled Reality. Later on, Nanoscape, Tony Tang, Hiroshi Chigera, and I. That was my thesis project, and the project was about sharing 3D collaboration over distance using live video overlay technology. And you'll see a glimpse of that type of work in this portfolio. So after Media Lab, I joined Microsoft, and I got to work on world's first cross-platform mixed reality teleconference experience, Skype for HoloLens. And later on, we shipped the product, and after I shipped the product, I was teaching at CMU, and this was my office using the working product. And similar products still exist. Now it's called Microsoft Mesh. Now it's under Teams. But it was like one of the kind of experience that kind of like lasted for a very long time. And even when we were working on it, we thought about, okay, right now it's a floating video card, but can you make it volumetric? So we were able to gradually build towards that vision. After CMU, I realized while I was teaching, the industry has been catching up really quickly. And you might experience this, being in academia, the technology has caught up, or sometimes it's actually moving even faster. And so I realized that when I was teaching, and I realized if I wanted to be in this field, I got to be part of it. I got to make the change. So I went back as the design lead on Microsoft Windows Mixed Reality and worked on this product and shipped it. And this had the most users' reactions when we shipped it. And it was based on like a very simple like design, such as like Xbox, Skype. We were building on top of that, and it was honestly speaking not satisfying as a designer, and I wanted to push it even further. And also one limitation was, mobile users were not empowered as much as the headset users. So I wanted to change how people could also change their perspectives as the mobile user. So filed this patent on using camera controllers, using hand gestures to change your viewports in the VR environment. And after this, I joined the HoloLens team and worked on the togetherness effort, drove that effort, and it was for one of the newer mixed reality wearables, and that became the founding concept design for Microsoft Mesh, which included fully volumetric embodied avatars for teleconference communications. So that was like really a quick version of my last 12 years before working on the Project Muhan and other Android XR efforts at Samsung. So I joined Samsung about a year and a half ago, and Android XR is a partnership between Google and Samsung, so even from the software level to UX to engineering, it was a very tightly coupled collaborative process between the two companies. And at Samsung, we've always believed that the future of XR would revolve around a fully context-aware system. And that's what I really pushed for as soon as I joined Samsung. We need a multimodal voice input and interaction in XR, and we were able to get it down the road.
With Android XR, it is all coming together. Let's take a look.
So that was COO of Samsung.
There's no way we could build this platform other than collaborating very closely. We've been working with Samsung for a number of years, and so we look for opportunities where we could really marry each other's strength in creating something new.
From software and UX to hardware, cross-functional partners across both companies have worked seamlessly around the clock as one team to build a powerful XR platform.
So, as I've mentioned, Android XR is a partnership between Samsung and Google, and Qualcomm also worked on partnering on the Project Muhan and everything together. And so in 2025, we mentioned that we will be shipping Project Muhan, the headset, which is an episodic experience. And later on, we hinted at shipping the glasses as well. Sharam from Google recently gave a TED Talk, so you could check out the research project on the glasses. And Samsung and Google are partnering on productizing the glasses experience. So stay tuned for more. So as you can imagine, with the power of LLM, we're at a point where we could actually make meaningful changes in the field of XR. And the way how I think about XR, I don't limit that to just the rendering of the information. I mean, I really love this analogy that Hiroshi used. If information is water, devices are like water faucets. He told this, shared with me 12 years ago, and that is still the philosophy that I have in my mind when I work on these products. So imagine in the future where the LLM is integrated into all-day wearables, and imagine what that would mean to everyone. And I do think that will make a massive impact. Bill Buxton once said the future of mobile computing will revolve around a society of devices. So the future of mobile computing wouldn't be based on a single handheld device. It would be a constellation of devices talking to one another. And at the center of it, I truly personally believe that it would be the glasses. Today, I won't be talking about the glasses, however. I'll deep dive into Project Muhan. So Project Muhan introduces one of the world's, in my opinion, most advanced multimodal voice interactions in an XR setting in a meaningful way. We aspire to create HCI control experiences using the multimodal voice interactions, and you'll see a bit of that as well down the road. So It's been announced. They talked about it a lot in the media. So far, it's been great. Marcus Brownlee from AKBHD also reviewed it. You could check out the YouTube video if you want. And little did we talk about, however, about One UI XR. One UI is the language for Galaxy, equivalent to like human interface guideline or material design. So Samsung has its own unique visual and design language. It's a UX framework for our products. So One UI XR is equivalent to that in the XR world. So it's built on top of the Android XR that Samsung and Google owns, and this is for the product. So when so when we worked on the design from everything, it was a very tightly coupled collaboration. So we worked very closely with Google UX on developing all the UX mental model. And above, you're seeing what we're designing for the launch target. So you are the first ones to see a glimpse of what this product would actually look like from a launch target perspective. So this is the One UI XR work in progress. And everything, as we designed it, we designed it so that it would work really well with the multimodal AI interactions. So lastly, because a lot of you are still students, I wanted to kind of share the process behind all of this. So my boss back in Seoul, Hichul Yang, he's a Harvard alum as well. He introduced this new work progress process at Samsung called a product experience design. So PXD is something that Samsung is trying to develop as a design philosophy. So you'll see a bit of the PXD process that helps us explore from ideations to implementation in this field. So this is work done by Maciek Janicki, a genius 3D artist that works at Samsung. And if you think about 2D screens on your mobile phone, it's actually also spatial. So thinking about it from a z-axis standpoint, I think that there could be a lot of things you could do with it. So in our group and team and lab, we don't differentiate 2D and 3D. We kind of blur the boundaries between the two. And this is his way of representing that. And we also built our own custom storyboard tool. Donghwan is the great illustrator who generated all of the poses, eye gaze, facial expressions, gestures, and the Galaxy devices to kind of empower all the designers to quickly sketch out their ideas in storyboard format. And then Haegang worked on this using the conventional tools like Figma. So it is a 2D tool, but he was able to think in a very spatial, immersive way as he was sketching this out. And Maciek, Sangon, and a bunch of us, including Chuhee, integrated that into a spatial setting. But this one's using Cinema 4D and After Effects. But
show my photos on my gallery.
Yeah, we could have done it in Unity as well.
Yes, here are your pictures. It seems you all had a ton of fun.
So that's my son. So I'm sure. Okay. So I showed this photo to Hiroshi just now, but he thought he was a daughter. But okay, so that's an example of the concept, and as you can see, all of the motion are broken down into this type of format. So there's a library for each components, and when Maciek and I were working at Microsoft, we worked on a tool that enabled people to generate code from motion graphics. Now, these days, there's Lottie, as you all know. You could actually quickly generate an HTML or any JSON file from your design tools. So things have been evolving really fast. But as I've mentioned, it could happen in Unity as well. So this guy, Min-Kyu Park, we call him the dark magician because he's so good at his work. And he has generated numerous tools in Unity so that you could actually process a lot of this and kind of reduce the workload in our designs. And this is what he's done, working very closely with motion designers and other visual designers. He created this custom tool so that we could actually modify and iterate the design on the go. And this one's my favorite. It looks very similar to Anoscape, the project that I did under Hiroshi Ishii. So Chuhee actually annotated in this 3D space and overlaid a lot of images to communicate with other designers as we were working on this environmental design for the Project Muhan home background. And I think it's a really powerful example of how you could connect 2D and 3D in a very spatial setting and kind of push the boundaries of how you might want to design on a screen. So in this example, we actually started from the 2D flat screen on a conventional computing setting, and then the designers were able to wear the headset and kind of communicate their ideas. And I think that's like, we're actually, a lot of you are probably used to that at GST, but I think this is where the industry is heading towards. And based on all of this work, we were able to launch this project.
Can you take me here?
Okay, let me take you there.
Yeah, thank you. So as I've mentioned, headset is an episodic experience. I truly believe when it comes to experiencing like the most futuristic experience, headset is way to go because it has all the computing power. It has a stream of video feed that our multimodal AI could collect data from. So the output is most rich. But for glasses, it's going to be all-day wearables, and more people would be using it. So, but then, presumably, the technology and everything won't be as advanced as this one when it comes to user experience. So there's two things. Like, we never had the ChatGPT moment in XR. Personally, I think it's because of the form factor. HoloLens and these devices, headsets, feel bulky for all-day usage. But in glasses form factor, it's going to be very different. And once these two products merged together, and this is the Project Mohan announcement at the XR Unlocked event. Once these visions align together and converge, I think that's when true innovation will take place. And as we're working in these like future experiences, all of us, we're actually not designing for ourselves, we're designing for the future generation. So Kai was born during the COVID-19 time in 2019, and this was his first time seeing the sea in Jeju Island. And I want people to make this type of impressions when they see our product and use our product. And what I realized was, yes, what we're doing, what we're designing is for this future generation, and we got to do the right things, make the right decisions, be responsible in how we design our stuff, because policy won't catch up. And we're going through a lot of stuff right now politically. And I think as designers, I think we should do what we can do, right, to make these positive changes. Thank you.
Do you want to do Q&A? Yeah.
Sure. Any questions? Oh, I'm going to start with my manager, sorry. He was my first boss ever, so.
It's kind of amazing because I'm teaching class in the MIT video. The 60% is GST and the GSE. So it's nice to coming back home. I know many of you in through the class, so thank you. And also it's quite very impressive moving that you develop your career so advancing to challenging to the extreme case of human computational environment interface. And I have a simple question. You know my Clearboard?
Yes, Clearboard.
Ultimately, human-computer interaction is important, but the human-human interaction mediated by technology, digital, computer is so important. How your paradigms may go to human-human interactions mediated by AI or AI agent or 3D environment. Currently, very, very sophisticated way to approach of human, machine, human information. But I didn't see other human using all the modality boundaries. Also, agent appear like avatar. It's become very interesting, complex, interaction. So let me know your thoughts.
Oh, okay. So Hiroshi, thank you for asking that question, because I've been thinking about this for a very, very long time. So Clearboard, for those who don't know, solves the gaze problem for people in distributed settings. And this was way before Skype existed. So people can annotate in this mirrored setting, and the flipped version of you would be portrayed to the other person. So that is the Clearboard. And my thesis was to create a Clearboard equivalent in 3D settings. So when we worked on Skype for HoloLens and Mesh and everything, I considered all of this when we were designing. But for these products like Vision Pro or Project Muhan or Quest video pass-through VR experiences, the notion is, it feels like a very siloed experience, and then they talk about fully embodied avatars in like Horizon, for example. It enables people to talk to one another in an immersive setting through digital representations. It's different. It's different from human-to-human interactions. It replicates as much as it can, but it is actually still different. I still think, when I say we didn't have the ChatGPT moment in XR, I do think it's because of the form factor. So once we do have the glasses, for people in your, I don't know, the bystanders in your surrounding, collocated space, in a way, if you have this additional layer of information, there could be occlusion, and information actually blocks between the users. However, I think we have to think about ways to resolve that. Gaze is a major issue in my point of view, even in that design. Because if I were to see information in front of Hiroshi, and if it's down over here and I keep blinking over there, then I'm not being respectful. The way how I look at his eye, making eye contacts when I'm communicating, these are the type of things we have to consider as we design. And this is me talking personally as a designer, not as someone who's representing Samsung. So I'm not doing any NDA breach right now, okay? So I'm just purely from academic standpoint, I think these are some of the things we always have to consider as we design. But for remote collaboration over distance, I think there can be many ways to think about it, because in glasses or headsets, you don't have inward-facing camera. So you do have to rely on AI to kind of figure out a way to simulate your emotions or facial expressions. And I think our product, which we haven't shown today, will have some of those components in Muhan. And hopefully I plan to see how that can evolve over time. So I'm not sure if you would be satisfied with the design, but I'll try my best to meet your bar.
Thank you. I want to mention, I'm very proud of you, your success and the impact to real world on behalf of all the team, the alumni. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Chris.
Hi, I'm Jerry Cragen. I'm a psychiatrist at the University of Toronto, and my research area is data ethics. So I'm interested in a comment that you just said at the end, where we're working for the next generation. And what are your concerns? And there's certain things that are coming up where people are getting emotionally attached to AI, and they're developing relationships with AI, and we've had suicides as a result of that. So I just wondered what are your concerns that you alluded to just at the end there, that we need to be careful? I'd be interested in your comments. Thank you.
That is a really great question. I think there's two aspects of this. If we think about product success from, I don't know, company standpoint, one really critical criteria is to build trust. So every decision makings should revolve around building trust amongst the bystanders and even for the users as well. But then there's this other side. Like if you think about all of this from users' perspective, it is really critical to be very responsible. I think attachment with like emotional connection with AI agents. This is one aspect of it, the personified AI and interacting with it and enabling people to deal with loneliness and all of that. I think there's pros and cons in that design, but going back to the context of XR interactions, the usage of AI for us, we may or may not have this type of agents, but in a way, I think the trend right now is even with like Rabbit, Humane, and there's a trend of trying to create a very AI-centric mobile experiences. And if we go back and think about what Bill Buxton said about society of devices forming a future of mobile computing, I think all of them will be connected. So AI-centric mobile experience, but imagine AI-centric mobile experiences connected with a lot of devices. To me, I think these devices, applications, and all of this will become a service. And these services, I think, everyone would want to build their own AI agents. I can imagine Spotify saying, I'm going to create a music agent. I could imagine Netflix saying, I'm the new entertainment agent. So in a way, every one of us will be talking with these agents that are specialized in certain areas. Keiichi Matsuda, who's a famous film director and one of my former bosses at Microsoft, he envisioned this world, and he recently released a video of agents that actually have a special AI agents that specializes in certain areas, and users actually talk with these multiple agents, and it's a really interesting way to think about the future of computing. And I don't know, going back to what Hiroshi and I just discussed, I think the most important part here is how do you think about human-to-human interactions in that context? So are people isolated from other people because we always interact with agents? Or do these agents actually help facilitate communication between people? These are the type of things we should ask ourselves as designers as we work in this field. And I think I would prefer doing something for the latter. But I don't know. I don't know how things will unfold. It's a really interesting time with all the AI. 6 years of R&D can happen within 6 months. And Valentin Hyun, he gave a talk last year. He and I had dinner yesterday, and we were talking about how technology is evolving so fast. I've never felt I had to keep up with technology. I was always way ahead working in this field. But now I feel like things that I imagined yesterday becomes a product the next day from a different competitor. So we're kind of like chasing, but we have to also think about long-term time horizon. Similar to, it's a vision-driven research. I think we have to think about that as we design. Otherwise, things will take over without us realizing, what's actually happened, right? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm Albright. I work with the World Bank Technology Innovation Office. And disclaimer, I'm wearing a Ray-Ban glass and I'm recording you. So I'm here with a couple of my colleagues, and we are doing a little research to understand the application of spatial computing technology at an enterprise level in the context of human development. So I would like to get your opinion on what do you see for the future of this technology? The spatial computing, XR, AI, anyhow we call it, it's evolving at a rapid rate, but we don't know how fast the enterprise level is catching up. So we want to get your comment on that. Thank you.
Yeah, so going back to the notion of spatial computing, at the Media Lab, roughly around 13 years ago, when they defined spatial computing, it wasn't just about the digital artifacts that float in your space. Spatial computing referred to an interaction design that included things that you can touch, look, and tangible artifacts in your surrounding. All of them, both digital and physical, were within the notion of spatial computing. I know our competitor use the term slightly differently. But if you think about that, I think, I don't want to reveal too much, but this is based on my imagination that I had for some time. I think things in your surrounding, both digital and physical, you should be able to leverage the power of spatial computing or immersive computing to interact with all of them. It could be human, it could be any artifacts, digital appliances maybe, I don't know. But I think that's how I think about XR. I think it's not just about rendering the information in volumetric way. It's about, that is just information, the way how information is rendered. But you have to think about the UX mental model, because everything is spatial. So how do you interact with things that are spatial? And I think that's how we should think about XR. It shouldn't be limited to like a headset experience. Headset is one of the vehicles. Mark Bolas and I talked about hybrid environments when I joined Microsoft after CMU. And he and I both agreed this wearable is just a vehicle, like one example of how we can render information in space. But maybe you might not need digital visual feedback if you're interacting with the space itself or the physical artifacts in your surrounding, because you see the output right away, or visual feedback. So I think that's how we should think about it. And the Radical Atoms project that Hiroshi did, or many years ago, or Tangible Media effort, I think that, to me, I think that's like a way of doing spatial computing from my lens. So that's how I think about XR. I hope that makes sense.
Just a little bit more comments on, okay, so we do a lot of projects that tie to lives and changing lives, and we have different projects in remote locations, country offices all around the world, and people in the HQ, for example, in DC, would like to understand how these projects that we're doing are actually impacting these regions. So I'm also asking in terms of the capabilities of this technology to not have over-exceeded expectations of what the technology can actually do. So I wanted you to articulate what this technology can actually do, because I see that you've spoken a lot about the future of the technology, so we'd like to get your perspective on that in the human development context.
Got it. I think there's many ways of thinking about it, like access to this technology will be very critical. So obviously, like the first products that are released, it's not affordable to everyone, it seems. I don't think it would be affordable to like every human beings in the world, right? So I think access to technology will be one of the interesting factors. But at the same time, the way how people use this technology will be very critical. So people with bad intentions might use this technology in a really interesting way, and in a very negative ways. So I think, again, thinking about the policy as you're designing, like thinking about ways to protect users' privacy, for example, as much as you can. I think these are the things we have to consider as we're designing for this. But in terms of like how we could help with like in terms of like supporting people in different areas, I think it will depend on the users actually. They will, even with like Kinect, for example, when Microsoft Kinect came out, it was for gaming, but many doctors used it and institutes used it for medical problem solving. So I really want to see more of that. So if Samsung and Google releases and produces the Android XR platform, I think there will be more variations of these headsets or glasses and applications that would empower human beings. And I think that's the role of these larger companies. They create the infrastructure platform so that people could actually, users or developers could actually generate something that's meaningful for more people. I think that's how we create impact. Yeah. All right.
Hi, I'm Naman. I'm one of the co-founders of Baseline Tech, where we're building an indoor snowboarding simulator to train athletes and regular people who want to just learn snowboarding. So, given your background, what's your opinion in integrating XR with hardware or robotics technology to either from training athletes to moving things in real world? How do you see that future happening?
So my personal opinion, I think it's great. I love seeing things like that. I've seen people learn how to walk again through these type of projects, like Misha Sra, who she's a professor, and I think her research revolved on something like that as well. So I think there's a lot of benefits in achieving things like that. I think there's two aspects. If you think about consumer experiences, maybe they would actually want something more like an all-day wearables type of form factor. But for a very specialized use cases, I do think there's a huge potential in using robotics, actuations integrated into XR experiences. I do think it's very promising. But that's not my domain expertise. But I really admire the people that are working in that field. Yep.
Hi, I'm Martin Sortel. I'm from Dell CSG CTO office. I'm the XR lead. I've also got the Ray-Bans on. I love the idea of flipping who the audience is, and this allows you to do that in a really interesting way. So my question's around that future vision of the videos you showed, where you can walk through the street and see information around you that's relevant to you. That might be feasible in, say, a Muhan headset today. But in the form factor that I'm wearing, like these Ray-Bans, it's much more difficult. There's many more constraints. How do you see navigating to fit within those constraints so that we can arrive at that vision?
So, for your information, the navigation video that you saw, there's a live demo of that using that in glasses form factor, and that was what we announced at the XR Unlocked event. And Sharam, our partner at Google, also shared a vision related to that. And as I've mentioned, we're in the process of productizing all of these type of research into a reality. So who knows how things will unfold, but if you look at the current technology, there's ways to do that. Here's how I see this. Man, I have so many things to say, actually, but we could talk more in depth later. But I think there's many challenges here, because if you're thinking about the user experience itself, and also like people will be paying to buy these products. So I wonder if they would actually buy the product to see, I don't know, some augmented reality guide in space, in immersive view. Like, would people buy this for that? It maybe not. But if you think about it from a different angle, there could be a lot of data that could be collected through these type of experiences, similar to what Niantic did with Pokemon. That was their whole business. They built this spatial data through Pokemon, and that becomes a business. So there's multiple angles. Like if you think about all of this from a service design standpoint, for certain companies, like users can be the customer, but sometimes they're products, right? In a way, for certain companies. So you have to think about this from multiple angles. And I'm again talking as like an individual, like designer, who's thought about this for some time. And the more I think about it, this is a very hard challenge, because if you can benefit people through these services, and they might be, they could actually provide, I don't know. So for example, this morning I was like training my Instagram so that I could curate the content to see boxing, and I'm actually doing labor for Instagram, right? Because I'm adding my data, but I'm willingly doing it because I want to curate. So there's a give and take type of notion here as well. And I think that's how we can think about this example that you just referred to. The form factor is one thing, and I think technology will get there at a certain point, like collectively, the industry will get there. I've heard rumors about Meta shipping some products as well. So I think technology will get there, but I think at the end of the day, the most critical part is like, as users, how are we gonna, I don't know, deal with this technology, or how are we going to leverage this technology and empower ourselves? And there's multiple angles, multiple approaches that we could think about, and it's still unknown. And I think we'll find out along the way. I think we're on this journey all together, like collectively working in this field. And I do wish there's a ChatGPT moment for XR. Right? I think everyone here in this room wants that moment so that we could build up the ecosystem. But hopefully we could do the right things along the way and don't miss out on like new opportunities, but also don't miss out on these details that will have a huge impact in the next generation. Yeah. I hope that made sense. I was kind of like thinking out loud here. Yeah. I think we're almost at time, right? Oh, I still have, okay, last.
Okay, sweet. Hi, I'm Ben Michaels. I'm an experiential designer and producer, specifically in the creative tools space. I think my question is, you've spoken a lot about the designing for the next generation. You've shown your son. Because we're at this precipice that's kind of similar to maybe before social media, before the dot-com boom and all that, that was kind of the first wave of digital evolution, making tools that are going to be mass distributed. We have another opportunity here to redesign, rethink everything. I think my biggest question is, and you've talked a little bit about ethics and safety and all that, for your son, for the future generation, what lessons are you taking from this last wave of digital innovation that you want to see applied to this next wave?
That's very deep. I think there's two aspects to this. If you want to truly innovate, you really want to build on existing habits. If you start from scratch, it's going to be very hard to adapt. For example, like I think it was some part of India, they really wanted kids to sanitize their hands, right? But the area didn't have a lot of water. So UNICEF people looked into how kids played around, and they were using chalks to like draw on the walls and have a lot of fun. So they created a soap in chalk form factor. So kids were just drawing, but they were sanitizing their hands, and they solved the issue. So that's one example of like building on top of existing habits and innovating. And this field, like XR, I mean, we've been working on AR, VR for, I don't know, very, very long time. However, if you, like, every time we work on these like new platforms or operating systems, one of the LT members would come and say, hey, can we make this more volumetric? Can you make it more pop? But the thing is, you want to also make it usable, and you want to build on top of familiarity. So that's something we have to consider as we design. So we have to think about the stepping stones and the stages. That's why there are like flat panels in a fully immersive setting, because you want to build up top of the existing UX mental model. So we're kind of like, sort of like repeating ourselves all over again, even in this like most advanced computing setup. You kind of have to build on top of the legacy. But I think what we have to really focus on is not only worrying about bringing in the old legacy, but leaving the new legacy. So I think that's the area we have to work towards. So you mentioned about the privacy concerns and all of that. I think that's something we have, that's like a horizontal thing that has to be in our mind throughout the entire journey. But we also we have to think about things that we can leverage from the past. But in terms of some of the negative effects of like how things are today, I think we also have to make sure that we don't repeat those elements, but also bring in the stuff that actually worked. But the interesting part is, even if you bring in these things, who knows what will happen? It might actually fail, and there could be a unpredicted consequence using some of these elements from, I don't know, Internet 2.0, 3.0. But I don't think it's going to be the same. The biggest difference is that you have this physical context. Because if you think about a lot of the AI discussions on mobile phone, this is about bringing in the information that's buried to the surface, right? That's what this whole AI-centric mobile experiences is about. So let's say you're thinking about your finances or staying healthy. All of this data already exists, but it's buried somewhere. But if you could surface that instantly through AI, that can benefit you tremendously. But on the other hand, if it surfaces some data you don't want to share. For example, my friend asked ChatGPT about himself, right? Where do you think I would live? What do you think I would, how much I would make? And then ChatGPT was able to predict very precisely what his income would be, the area he would live. Imagine people with bad intentions using that in a very ill way. So even with this same technology, like the consequences could be really different depending on the person using the technology. So I think we'll try to create the guardrails to protect people from all of that negative, outcomes. But it is a hard challenge, right? It is a hard challenge. So there's like the dark side of everything, right? But I think people who are building tend to be pretty positive about this. They're positive people, positive thinkers, aspire to build something great, right? So I think there's two sides of everything, but I don't know, this is a challenge. As a matter of fact, I want you to think about this, because I'm like, I don't know, I have like 10 more years, maybe at most, working in this field. You all will be innovating, and you will be designing for my kids, right? So I ask you, I ask you to do the right things. But I'll also try my best in this era. But hopefully you can make the positive impact. Yeah. Everyone.